We're back here on the Lynn Hayes Freeland Show, and we're talking about a new plan that's being executed at this moment within Pittsburgh Public Schools. So this is already in place,
it's
correct?
It's already in place. And a lot of what you'll find that is outlined in the equity plan is also covered in the district strategic plan, which was put forth a couple of years ago. So this work has been ongoing, and it's going to continue. We have some newer work coming in. An example of something that has already begun is our moratorium on nonviolent K-2 suspensions. The district made a bold move just last year to say we are not going to honor suspensions for students in grades K-2 who exhibit nonviolent behaviors. Previously, you could be suspended for nonviolent offenses.
So a kindergarten student
Correct.
could be suspended?
Correct. So that's an example of a systems issue, you know, because what we're finding is that obviously if you're not in school, you're not able to have access to the curriculum and learning.
Right.
And so what we want to do is reduce the instances that students are excluded from the learning environment.
And I would imagine there are long-term implications on a kindergarten student, on a first grader who has been suspended from school.
Absolutely.
Because at some point, kids start to process and internalize, I'm bad.
Yes, yes. There are stigmas attached to that for the child to internalize, and also for educators to begin to stigmatize the child as the bad child. And so we're really trying to shift the culture to, you know, the children are not bad. They may be reacting to their environment. In some cases, it's their immediate environment, what's going on in the classroom, in which case we're focusing on how teachers can de-escalate and minimize infractions, and how they can create more positive environments where students do feel cared for, they feel supported, and they're receiving some live learning examples of how to process their emotions when their feelings are hurt, when they're displeased with what's happening, and they really want to be able to talk through it versus act out on it and be penalized for it.
Now, what about parents? And I use this quote all the time that I saw, and I hate to refer to social media, but I saw it on social media, and someone wrote that you should not expect more from your teachers than you're willing to put into your child yourself. Are there expectations from the parents when we look at this overall?
We can't do this without the parents. The parents are, to cite another quote, they are the first educator in their child's, and they are probably the most consistent teacher for the children. So we want to support them, but we also accept that we have a responsibility as educators. You know, if I could repeat, we are the certified educators. So it is our job, and we do have to take it seriously. I think it's a partnership we're looking for. We're looking for a shared accountability and responsibility. It's a village that it takes to be able to raise all of these children, and that's what we want. So we have to enter into a partnership and not point the finger and say one person has more responsibility than the other. The people who have responsibility are all of the people who truly care about the kids, no matter what.
So what will the benchmarks be? I mean, how will we know? I mean, I guess at the end of the day, the benchmarks will be, we'll see a reduction in the achievement gap.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the big picture. We certainly want to see the gap, which has been widening. We want to see it close, ultimately. We want to know that all of our students are achieving at the same levels, because they're all being given the supports they're needed to achieve that. But we also want to see a reduction in disproportionate discipline. We want to see African American students not being excluded from their learning environments as much. We want to see students' attendance on the rise, graduation rates improve. We want to see more African American students screened and identified for gifted education. We want them to have more access to advanced placement and other honors courses throughout the district.
So are there some systemic issues? Because I know you and I had a chance to talk earlier, and I remember I was able to pull back on my own experiences. I remember having to fight to get my kids tested.
Yes.
For the gifted program, and I remember the principal saying to me specifically, well, I don't want to be responsible if your daughter's disappointed when she doesn't get in. And I remember saying, I'll take that responsibility. But it was a systematic issue that African American children weren't necessarily considered for that.
Absolutely. And I think what we're just trying to do is have a very transparent and objective process. We want to minimize the potential of implicit bias that can go into identifying a student as a candidate to be tested. Because again, we're just talking about being recommended to take the exam that would have you be identified for gifted education. And so we are pursuing some pilots right now, some ways, some measures to be able to identify students. So we're taking out any human error in the process as much as possible. And it is going to be difficult because it's going to take multiple methods to be able to evaluate that and ensure that biases are not surfacing throughout the process.
So at the end of the day, I feel excited about this. I mean, at this point, I don't have kids in Pittsburgh Public Schools, but I do feel excited about it because I do feel like the entire community needs to be invested in our public school system.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'm a Pittsburgh Public Schools graduate. I taught in Pittsburgh Public Schools. As we mentioned earlier, my parents are retired Pittsburgh Public School educators. So I do believe in the Pittsburgh Public Schools mission and vision. And I think that we need support. We need support, and we need to continue the courage we have to be able to call out those systems that are not working for all children and be willing to take the risk to change the system. And that's what we're doing from the inside out. It can be easy sometimes to be on the outside and say what should be happening or could be happening. And I would just invite people, come and help us. Come on in and see what we're doing on the ground and roll up your sleeves and help us.
And you know that, and it's interesting that you said that because it's also easy from the outside to say, well, this doesn't work. Well, this doesn't work. Well, no, I'm not going to do this.
Right.
When in fact, you got to get in there and you got to be present.
Yes.
And especially for our parents. I keep coming back to parents, but I do think that parents have an obligation to be present in their child's
Absolutely.
education
Absolutely.
process.
Children want to see their parents involved.
And
Teachers want to see
even when they
their
say
parents.
they don't, they want to see
Oh, for
you
sure.
there.
When kids close the door, sometimes that just means knock a couple more times.
There
you
you
know,
go.
they want that advocacy.
So
for sure.
2022.
2022 is the timeline that we can look for in terms of these 27 action steps being realized. And then we'll have an opportunity to look back and see what impact did they have on students.
And parents can go online, correct, and see this?
This is right now on the homepage of Pittsburgh Public Schools. They can look at the equity plan. It's going to be available in print as well, but it is online.
It is online. Thanks so much for joining us. All good stuff. And you know what? Bottom line is you can't sit at home and just watch what's happening with your child. You got to get involved. In the meantime, I'm Lynn Hayes Freeland. Thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget, we're here every Sunday at 11 o'clock on WPCW and Monday through Friday, 12 to 3. You know where to find me, KDKA Radio 1020. And then, of course, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and you can watch us online, kdka.com/LHSJ. We'll see you next week.